Okay, so we are on workbook page 488. Today we're going to learn about factoring. So factoring is the opposite of the distributive property. So when we have the distributive property, for example, something like this, the number on the outside we would multiply in, and we would end with something like this. For factoring, we're doing the opposite, where we're starting with something like this, and instead of multiplying in, we're dividing something out. So we're going to end up with something like this. So it's the opposite of the distributive property. Instead of multiplying in, we're dividing out. So let's look at this first example. Factor 3x plus 15. So to divide something out, what we want to do is find the greatest common factor. So what you can do is, to find the greatest common factor, look for the smaller number of what you have, 3 and 15. So I have 3 and 15. So take the smaller number and make a list of all of its factors. So all of the factors of 3 are 1 times 3, and then that's it. Those are the only two numbers that go into 3. So you want to look for the biggest number that also goes into 15. So 3 is the bigger number that also goes into 15. So the greatest common factor is 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide out a 3. So when you divide it out, it comes outside a set of parentheses. So that means we're going to divide it from the first term, divide it from the second term. So 3 over 3, that equals 1. And 1 times x is just x. So technically, we could just cancel these out. So then all we would be left with here is x. Now we have a plus sign in the middle, so we're going to bring that down. Now we have 15 over 3, that means to divide. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So we would end up with 3 parentheses x plus 5, and that's how we would factor it. Let's do another example. We're going to do letter K. 16 plus 4x, we want to factor. So we have to find the greatest common factor between 16 and 4. So again, take the smaller of the two numbers and make the list of factors. So we could do 1 times 4, 2 times 2, and that's it. Those are all the factors of 4, 1, 2, and 4. So we want to see which of those numbers is the biggest that also goes into 16. And so 1, 2, and 4 all go into 16, but 4 is the biggest. So 4 is our greatest common factor. So we're going to put our greatest common factor outside a set of parentheses, and we're going to divide it from the first term, divide it from the second term. So 16 over 4, that means 16 divided by 4, that equals 4. Plus, now 4 over 4, that equals to 1. And 1 times x is just x. So we could technically just cancel these out and just be left with an x. So we get 4 times 4 plus x when we factor. So let's do letter L. We have 7x plus 42. So find the greatest common factor. So start with 7 and write its factors. So we have 1 times 7, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 don't go into 7. So these are the only two factors. So we want to look at the bigger number. Does it also go into 42? Yes. So this is the greatest common factor. So we're going to divide out the 7, put it outside a set of parentheses, divide each part of the expression by the greatest common factor. So 7 over 7 equals 1. 1 times x is just x. So we could cancel these out because we're technically just left with an x. Plus 42 divided by 7 is 6. So we get 7 times x plus 6. Okay, now for letter M, let's add a y after the 30. So we're going to change it to 36x plus 30y. So now again, let's find the greatest common factor between 36 and 30. I'm going to take the smaller of the two numbers and write its list of factors. So we have 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, 5 times 6, and then there's nothing in between 5 and 6, so there's no other factors than 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. So let's start with the biggest factor, 30. Does it also go into 36? No. Does 15 go into 36? No. Does 10 go into 36? No. Does 6 go into 36? Yes. So 6 is the greatest factor that goes into both 30 and 36. So it's the greatest common factor. So we're going to put a 6 outside a set of parentheses, divide it from our first term, divide it from our second term. So 36 divided by 6 equals 6, and then we're still left with an x. So the first part inside the parentheses will be 6x plus 30 divided by 6 equals 5, but we still have a y. So the second part will be 5y. So we're going to have 6 times 6x plus 5y.